Hello and welcome to the Boxing Insider, where this week we'll be asking, can anybody beat Saul Canelo Alvarez? Well, a man looking to do so this weekend is Caleb Plant, the current IBF Super-Middleweight World Champion. But what do we know about the American? talkSPORT's Adi Oladipo has all the details.
This is the guy that's been boxing since he was 8 years old. He's won national Golden Gloves titles. For us British fans, it's very similar to the ABAs. And obviously he's the world champion. He's the IBF Super-Middleweight World Champion, won that belt back in 2019, beating Uzcata Gui. He's had routine defenses, if you like, of it, the likes of Mike Lee and former world champion Caleb Truax. But look, he's a confident guy. 20 fights, 20 wins, 12 knockouts, so he can punch a bit as well. But this is a massive step up. There are levels in boxing, as you know, James, and I think this is a big step up in level for him. Not just the idea of fighting Canelo, but a Canelo fight week as well. There's so much more press you have to do, which is always difficult when you're trying to cut weight. So there's a lot that you have to kind of take on board. And that's why I think he might struggle. And that's why I think people have started saying the next victim. But he's a good boxer. I just don't know if he's good enough.
And what happened between the pair at the first press conference? Because things got rather spicy, didn't they?
They have, and they've been getting spicy ever since the fight was announced. So, look, Caleb Plant isn't afraid to talk about maybe Canelo's past drug infringements, and the whole camp as well. Reynoso's had a few people test positive for stuff whilst in the camp, and he's been very vocal about it. And I think Canelo's not like that. And then they've had a couple of swear words, and Canelo now has started speaking English and understanding English language a lot better as well. And I think maybe Caleb Plant said a few things that he didn't take to, but I don't mind that. I like it. It sells the fight, and it shows that Caleb Plant's not one to kind of back down, and it's good. And I think we're seeing another side of Canelo as well, which is fun. I always thought Canelo press conferences were quite dull. They're not dull anymore. He's ready to fire back, and credit to Caleb Plant for fire back as well. I think it makes for a good fight, and it makes for what I think is going to be a good 4 or 5 action-packed rounds, because they're both going to go toe-to-toe because of that press conference.
The doping allegations that Caleb Plant refers to stem back to 2018, when Canelo tested positive for the chemical clenbuterol. The Mexican maintained that this was due to contaminated meat. But inside the ring, does Canelo have any weaknesses? Are there any chinks in the armour that Caleb Plant can look to exploit? Here's former two-weight world champion Carl Frampton.
Yeah, I think that he's the most well-rounded fighter of a generation, really. He's as good defensively as he is going forward. It's kind of there was kind of questions maybe a few years ago about his engine, and there was times where he would have kind of rounds off, but he seems to have sorted that out. His chin is one of the best in the game at the minute. I can't pick a flaw. I really can't. I think he's the most well-rounded fighter that we have at the minute.
Trainer Joe Gallagher has come up against Canelo twice. Firstly in 2016 with Liam Smith, and then secondly at the end of last year with Callum Smith.
Canelo is used to a rhythm in his work. I feel with Callum Smith, in the short time that we had, 4.5 weeks, we negated a lot of Canelo's good work. He didn't manage to get off a lot of his good shots. Our movement around the ring was good. Canelo didn't land as much as he usually does, and it was just a case of Callum in the short time wasn't sharp enough with sparring, and his timing was out. I think you're seeing with Floyd Mayweather, although it was a lot younger Canelo then, Mayweather's movement around the ring, his ring generalship was just too cute and too smart for Canelo.
Canelo turned pro at the age of just 15, and he's built up quite some resume since. 56 wins, 2 draws, and just 1 defeat. That came back in 2013 to Floyd Mayweather. So where does he rank amongst the all-time greats?
Talent and ability-wise, he's up there with the best of them. He's pound for pound number 1 at the moment now, by a long way for me. But there'll always be that doubt in people's minds because of the drug scenario, and I'll be brutally honest with you, it tarnishes some of the things he's done. He's a great fighter, and he's a special fighter, but that drug thing will still dangle over him for a long time.
If he keeps going the way he's going and he keeps getting the big wins, then you could be talking about him as being one of the best ever. certainly a conversation to be had. But he's up there. I hate kind of comparing different generations and different fighters because it was all very different. But in terms of what he's doing at the minute is unbelievable. He's fighting more regularly as well than most fighters. He's maybe having 3 or 4 fights at the minute where most champions are having 2, sometimes 1. He's just special fighter.
Listen, he's up there. He's one of the Mexicans' greatest fighters up there, obviously with Julio Cesar Chavez and Lopez as well, Ricardo Lopez. So he's made his mark. Obviously, he's always going to have the slur or the bad name with the drug testing, whether he tested positive or he didn't test positive. That's always got to be the slur, the black mark against him.
So, what does the future hold for the 31-year-old? That's if he's able to successfully unify the super-middleweight division this weekend.
I think he could go up and win a title at light heavyweight. But again, he's already done it against Kovalev, and people will say Kovalev over the hill and stuff, but Beterbiev is this serious opponent if he goes up there. There's a few opponents at light heavyweight. Potentially, you could see him at cruiser. It was interesting. I was doing a thing recently with and Tris Dixon was involved in it, and he was talking about him going up and fighting potentially Breedis at cruiserweight. And yeah, just it's mind blowing, really. You kind of, people talk about them fights. He's a small super middleweight. Talking about him going up to fight cruiserweights like Breedis, and thinking, yeah, he could probably win that fight. He might be a favourite actually going into that fight. So yeah, he's a phenomenal fighter. Really is. It's just a generational great.
This is a guy now who's going to clean up the 168 division in less than a year. That's just ridiculous. That's unheard of. It doesn't happen. Look, potentially 175 again. There are names out there. There is talk about a GGG fight. GGG's obviously got Murata. They could do a trilogy if GGG looks good. There is Jamal Charlo. There's Demetrius Andrade. Maybe even potentially a Chris Eubank Jr. fight. But at cruiserweight, look, you never know. It's funny because I was at ringside watching the Lawrence Okoli fight. And I'm not going to say who mentioned it, but there was someone very well known sat next to me. And he's like, you know what? I think Canelo could beat Lawrence Okoli at cruiser. Canelo always wants to fight. He's spoken about fighting in the UK. He loves coming over here. You never know. Canelo versus Lawrence Okoli in 2022, world title fight. Canelo trying to win a weight in 5 different weight classes. I wouldn't rule it out. It does sound crazy, James, but I would not rule it out.
So, can anybody beat Canelo Alvarez? Well, Caleb Plant certainly stands a chance this weekend, but it's going to be a tough ask for any super middleweight on the planet right now. Things will get more difficult for the Mexican if he decides to go up the weight categories once again, but who would bet against him becoming a 5-weight world champion if he does take the plunge and go up all the way to cruiserweight? If he was to do that, then surely there would be no argument, and he must be regarded as one of the greats of the sport if he's not already. Make sure you check out our interviews in full and leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. Can anybody beat Canelo Alvarez? And don't forget to like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode of The Boxing Insider.